Yeah, have you watched yesterday's lecture?
No, sir.
Watch my yesterday's lecture, then we'll have this discussion.
Okay, sir.
It will be fun. Anyway, so today we will start with again the past year exam question for section 230 to section 234. Right, so these five sections we are going to cover here, and all the past exam questions. So somewhere around three, five. There are a lot of questions which are asked from these sections only. Some of them are repetitive, some of them are really good questions, right? So this is for the June 2017 attempt. So we have question number 1B. So this is the question. So what is your opinion? What should be the answer for this? So let us first understand what is the situation here. That a scheme of merger of Happy Limited with Lucky Private Limited was filed with NCLT. Okay, one more thing, guys. When you get these kind of questions, just make sure that what kind of company it is, private limited or it's a public limited company. That makes a difference, right? So a scheme was of merger of Happy Limited with Lucky Private Limited was filed with NCLT. Now the regional director has raised objections that the additional filing fees, see the additional filing fees and the stamp duty on the increased share capital of Lucky Private Limited is to be paid. Also against the changing the name of the transferee company for not complying with section 61. So there are broadly two objections which are raised by the regional director. So when you get these kind of questions, you need to address, your answer needs to address both the things that the regional director has raised two objections. One is that it is with respect to the filing fees for the additional stamp duty and the filing fees for the increased authorized share capital, which is not paid by Lucky Limited, and then it is regarding the change of the name of the company and that they have not complied with section 61. So first of all, आप बताओ, will the objection of the regional director, will it hold good or it will not be tenable? If yes, then why? And if no, then why? And if your answer is both yes and no, then again reason for your yes and no.
So for this increased in authorized share capital, I mean, you can set off. So for that, it is, I mean, the regional director's objection is not tenable. And for the other thing, that is the, what is the other thing? So name, change in name. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, for that, it should be, it is tenable.
it is tenable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, wait. Okay.
Okay. So you'll realize that this is a repeated question, and I had mentioned that again and again there will be certain objections which would be raised by the regional director, and the common answer to that question would be single window clearance.
Yeah, I was about to tell that.
Right. So here two answers
Yeah.
you have to write. So your first option is that the additional fees, the question of the additional fees, that additional fees would be allowed as set off. Okay. So there are two reasons here. So this is June 2017, and that's question number 1, part B. So here there are two objections which are raised by the regional director, correct? And both of them do not hold, or both are not tenable. Why? Because the first objection which he has raised is with respect to the increased share capital and stamp duty. So what is the legal provision here? What is the legal provision here? This is that the duty paid by the transferor company would be allowed to be set off by the transferee company. Yes or no? This would be allowed to be set off by the transferee company pursuant to. the merger. Correct? Secondly, now tell me, the authorized share capital needs to be increased. That needs to be increased for what reason? To pay the purchase consideration. Correct? Now the purchase consideration needs to be paid pursuant to the merger. So that can be increased post sanctioning of the scheme. The scheme is not yet sanctioned, right? So why you would require to increase the authorized share capital? It's because when the merger will get through, then you need to pay the purchase consideration. For that you need to increase the authorized share capital, but that is again subject to the sanctioning of the scheme by the NCLT. That can be done post sanction also, right? So this increase in the authorized share capital can be done post sanctioning of the scheme. Okay, so this is, you have addressed the first issue. Therefore the regional director objections are not valid. And your second is regarding the change of name. So for this, again, it's not required because approval and sanction of the scheme under section 230 is what? It is a single window clearance. Yes or no? It's a single window clearance. And the approval, rather use the word sanction, and the sanction of scheme is deemed approval for all incidental ancillary matters. Yes or no? Which is required in the scheme. You remember? Provided it should be mentioned in the scheme. So if it is mentioned in the scheme, again, you don't need to comply the provisions separately, right? Does this make sense? This answer? So this way you're going to clearly mention that the two objections which are mentioned, those are not tenable. And then you'll step by step, you're going to mention what all objections have been raised by the regional director and why it is not valid. That's how you're going to answer this question. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? So shall we go ahead? So the next question that we have is question 3, part D. Okay, now check this. Messrs Happy Export Limited was merged with Messrs Smart Export Limited. The order passed by the High Court was filed with the Registrar of Companies, but the same was not taken on record by the regional director. Will the scheme be effective? Now, the entire question is around when you file the order of NCLT to the regional director, to the registrar of companies, does ROC have to register it, or once you file, your work is done? The scheme is binding.
It's binding, so once you file, I mean, if the ROC is not done, then it doesn't become ineffective for that reason.
So we had also come across two words. One was two dates. One was the appointed date. Another was the effective date. Remember? If you all
Yes, sir.
remember.
Appointed.
So here the concept of that appointed date and effective date will come. And effective date was, if you remember, the appointed date will be the deemed effective date. If you all remember. Let me just see. Was it in this one of the slide?
So,
Or no, not in this one. Was in this slide. The appointed date is the deemed effective date. Yeah, remember? The scheme must clearly indicate the appointed date from which it shall be effective, and the scheme will be deemed to be effective from such a date and not a date subsequent to the appointed date. Okay, so the appointed date will be the deemed effective date, and it is only the date of filing of the copy of the order to the ROC. So ROC need not register it. So the contention which is being given here, that will the scheme be effective, the answer is yes, the scheme will be effective with effect from the appointed date. Does this make sense?
सर
Yes.
आई थिंक इन 233 आपने बोला था शायद वो रजिस्टर्ड होना चाहिए राइट
ओके,
लाइक
सो
द स्कीम
सो
शुड बी
आप मुझे बताओ क्या ये 233 में आएगा?
नहीं नहीं सर नो
एंड
आई जस्ट हैड दैट
yes,
कंफ्यूजन वेदर इट
yes.
वाज दिस और दैट
So I'll tell you, that's the reason I mentioned that we'll have to read the question carefully. And the point that you raised, if I just say that this is a fast track merger, if I say Happy Export and its wholly owned subsidiary, then the ROC needs to register it, right? So these are some of the points which we need to really take care. Like even for the reduction of share capital, section 66, NCLT, the order of NCLT needs to be filed to ROC. Then ROC is going to give you the certificate, and once you get that certificate, that is the conclusive proof of the reduction of share capital, and with effect from that day the reduction is effected. But it's not in case of the merger. Okay, and secondly, they are using the word here high court. So this is section 232. So here the concept of the appointed date will come here.
so can't we like assume that it is because nothing is given, can't we make assumption that it is coming under 233?
Under 233 high court will not come,
Oh
NCLT,
yeah correct or oh
right?
got it sir got it.
Yes. So this is how it goes. So appointed date. So this appointed date would be the deemed effective date. So you need to mention what is appointed date. You need to mention what is effective date. And this is going to be your conclusion that the appointed date will be the deemed effective date. So even though it is not taken record by ROC, the scheme will be with effected, or it will be effective from the date which is called as appointed date. Got it? Does this make sense?
Yes sir.
Okay, so then we have another question. This one.
Sir, there
Yes.
was 3B also related to.
No, this we have not covered. We'll do it later.
Okay, sir.
This will do. Or this is again a straightforward question only. The amalgamated company has issued new shares to the non-resident Indians in the amalgamation, and for that it has to obtain prior permission of the Reserve Bank of India under the provisions of FEMA. This is not even 1998. This is 1991. 1999. What kind of error they have? Anyway, yes, so even this question is there. Yes, we have covered this. So does it require? It needs to comply with the FEMA regulation. Remember? Transfer or issue
Yes,
of
sir.
security by PROI regulation. So again, approval needs to be taken, and you can also mention the provision of section 232. Section 232 also mandates that if the company, if the scheme involves merger, then the transferee company needs to obtain the prior RBI approval and allot the shares as per the FEMA regulations in case the shares are being issued to the non-resident shareholders. It's not even NRI, it is PROI. Okay.
So,
Now, yes.
I thought you have to just write 232 का provision जो आपने बोला कि when you are issuing shares to non-resident FEMA regulations के हिसाब से होगा.
So if you remember the FEMA regulation, you just mentioned that FEMA regulation. Otherwise, again, the provision of section 232 will only come here. That when the scheme involves allotting the shares, when the scheme involves a merger in which the transferee company will have to issue shares to the non-resident shareholders of the transferor company. In that case, the transferee company needs to obtain the prior RBI approval, and also they need to comply with the FEMA regulations. And if you remember the exact FEMA regulation, that's absolutely fine. Otherwise, you just write FEMA regulation. Don't even write applicable FEMA regulation. That applicable FEMA regulation again makes it, evident that you don't know the regulation, right? The even just writing as per the FEMA regulation, that will also be evident that you don't know the name of the regulation, but applicable makes it more evident, right? So just write there as per the FEMA regulation. And if you remember, it is the transfer or issue of security by a person resident outside India regulation 2000. You need to comply with that.
So we need not write anything related to 234, right?
No, this is not related to 234.
Okay, sir.
This is not related to 234. This is only related to 232. Okay. Now we have this another question. The tribunal can modify the transfer date proposed in the scheme. Appointed date. So can the tribunal do so? Can the tribunal do so? Voice is cracking. So the power. So there are two answers to this. One is section 231. The three powers given to, yes, correct, Rituparna ji. If it is necessary for the implementation of the scheme. So there is one power which is given in section 231 to the NCLT that they can modify the scheme, right, if for the implementation. And secondly, this was also pronounced in one of the judgments that NCLT, what is transfer date? It is the appointed date. It is the appointed date. Yes. Okay. All right. Then December 2017. We need to see December 2017. And in December 2017, we have question number 2C. This one. Okay, this is again, sorry, not this question. This one. This is again a banking company merger, not now. We haven't covered this question. Okay. A scheme even approved by the majority can be rejected by the court, but such a scheme must be held unfair to the meanest intelligence, analyzed by citing some important judicial pronouncements. So can NCLT reject the scheme even though it is approved by the majority? Can they do so? Answer is yes. No, Mihir Mafatlal was opposite. Mihir Mafatlal, they allowed. Objections were set aside. Okay. So here the answer is yes, NCLT can. Why? So if you remember section 230 subsection 6, it gives that requirement. If the scheme is approved by the requisite majority and sanctioned by the NCLT. Right. So this absolutely gives the power to NCLT to even reject the scheme even if it is approved by the majority. First point. So this you have mentioned here. Then what you need to mention that NCLT is going to check certain grounds based on which it is going to sanction the scheme. So if you remember, we had covered one of the provision. I'll show you what are the things which NCLT is going to take into consideration before. Yes, so this you need to mention. So NCLT is going to check these things, right? So if NCLT finds that the scheme is not, the scheme is detrimental to the interest of the creditors, or it offends the public morality, if the scheme is not fair, if the scheme is not made in good faith, correct? If it violates the provisions of the Companies Act, then even if it is approved by the majority, NCLT will have the power to reject the scheme. Okay. So this is what you can answer here, right? The judgment which is there, I'll tell you, the judgment is one which is in the English law. In our Indian law, the judgment is not there. So even if you can skip the judgment judicial pronouncements, that would be fine. That won't take a lot of, you know, you won't, the institute is not going to deduct too much marks for this. Like one, you may lose 1 mark in this regard, but still that would be fine. The judgment is again pursuant to some English law, so you can ignore that, but you have to mention it clearly that does NCLT have the power? Answer is yes, right? So most of you have anyway answered yes. But only thing is, you'll have to see whether the reasoning is correct or not. So your reasoning, the answer would depend a lot on your reasoning. So yes or no, a correct yes or no will fetch you 1 marks. Then the reasoning for a 5 mark question, then the reasoning will fetch you the balance marks. So for balance, you'll have to mention what, which provision of the, or which section, which which provision of the act gives power to NCLT, right, to reject the scheme. So you will mention that it is section 230 subsection 6. From here NCLT gets that power, and then on what grounds NCLT is going to reject the scheme. So that way you can finish this answer, right? Then I guess in this attempt you don't have any other question which is pursuant to section 230, 232. This was all regarding the banks. Anyway, so let's go to June 2018. So in June 2018, you have question 2A, right? So this is again a stereotype repeated question. So what would be the answer for this? Just read it once again and you'll realize this is totally repeated question. For old syllabus, I'll tell you, this can get repeated in your December attempt. This may get repeated in your December attempt. So what is going to be the answer for this? So if you can check this, dissimilar business, right? Even the companies with dissimilar business, even they can merge, right? And we again covered that the authorized capital is not sufficient. So authorized capital can be increased, correct? So what answer you're going to write here? This is December. No, this is June 2018. So this is June 2018 and this is question 2A. So again, there are two objections which are raised by the regional director, and both the objections are invalid or they are not tenable. Again, you will mention what is the first objection. So objection number 1, that dissimilar business. So what points you are going to write here with respect to the dissimilar business? With respect to the dissimilar business, what points you are going to write here? The first and foremost point is that companies, when they merge, section 232 is applicable on all types of companies, right? If you remember, we had discussed it also. We had discussed Mathura Das Visinji Foundation case, right? We'll write the case also. So section 230 is applicable on all types of companies. So here, objects of the company being different This cannot be a ground for rejection. So even companies with dissimilar business can merge. Yes or no? Even the companies with dissimilar business, they can merge. And with respect to the object clause of the company, the object clause can be amended and include the business of a transferee company, and this can be sanctioned or approved with the approval of scheme. So this can be your answer here. As far as the second objection is concerned, objection number 2. So in case of objection number 2, it was the authorized share capital. This is again same to same what we just covered here. This one, right? So right, the increase in the authorized share capital. This is what? This is again pursuant to sanction of the scheme. So it need not be done before. Apart from that, if you see that the authorized share capital which needs to be again increased, that can be again sanctioned along with the scheme. And that's how you can write your answer, right? So this is again a easy question which they have asked, and as I mentioned that this is a repeated question, like from my attempt. And when I say my attempt, 10 years back, and when during my attempt I used to refer scanner, so another 10 years. So past 20 years of my experience, I have seen the questions, and again they've just repeated the same question, same way the objections would be raised, and again the answer would be the single clearance window, right? Now we have another question in this attempt. Okay, so check this. No, judicial pronouncements are not same for both the answer. As far as Mathura Das Visinji Foundation can be there, that even the companies with dissimilar business, they can merge. Then for the authorized share capital, there was another case, I think McLeod Russell. That case is there, right? What I'll do, I'll again make a list of judicial pronouncements along with the objects. Okay, so what we have anyway discussed a lot, but I've not mentioned the case name also. So what I'll do, I'll also mention the case name and I'll give that sheet to you all. So that can be helpful for you, especially for answering these questions, right? So I'll do that. Okay, so what about this question? What should be the answer for this? Now, don't get carried away by just seeing that company is listed, SEBI regulations is applicable. Right, one mistake which most of the students did in this attempt. Like June 2018, I would say CRI paper was a tricky paper. And tricky, by tricky, I say it was not difficult, it was tricky because a lot of the students they got fumbled and confused between the questions because they couldn't interpret it. That's why they couldn't answer it correctly. Right, so just check this question. What should be the answer for this? So what should be the answer for this? Come on. It's a very easy question. See, it says that A Limited was a listed company on Kanpur Stock Exchange but got delisted in 2012. In 2017, the board passed a resolution approving the scheme of arrangement and the petition before the NCLT. Subsequent to that, the scheme was from here. The scheme was placed before the members, which NCLT ordered. Now, two shareholders holding 80% shares oppose the scheme. Advise the company secretary. So, as a company secretary, advise the board on the next course of action pursuant to the provisions of the Companies Act. Now, a lot of students got confused with this line. Sir, the company was listed on a Kanpur Stock Exchange. What should be done for this? Typically, if I just erase this, it will not make any difference. If I just erase it also, this will not make any difference. Exactly, because it got delisted, so SEBI regulations need not be complied with. That's the benefit, or that's the only significance of this line. Now, secondly, it says that two shareholders holding 80% of the shares, they oppose the scheme. So what is the requisite majority? What is the requisite majority? The requisite majority is as per section 230 subsection 6. What is the requisite majority? It is majority in number plus 3/4 in value. Now when we say 3/4 in value, this means what? This means 75%. Now here two shareholders, so it may be majority number, it can be majority number, but 3/4 in value, they are opposing the scheme, right? So 3/4 you are not getting, only 80% has opposed the scheme. So is the scheme passed? Answer is no, the scheme cannot be passed. So I'll just write the answer for this question. This is again June 2018, question 2, capital A, first part. So simply, first point that you need to mention is that since the company is delisted, SEBI regulations need not be complied with. So SEBI regulations are not applicable. First and foremost thing is this. Thereafter, you have that as per section 230 subsection 6, the scheme needs to be approved by majority in number holding 3/4 in value. And then you can further mathematically show that 3/4 implies 75% in value. In this case, two shareholders who oppose the scheme, right, were holding 80% of the shares. Hence, the scheme cannot be approved. Scheme has become meme. Scheme cannot be approved, right? The scheme cannot be approved because 80% in value has opposed to the scheme. So what is the next course of action? The next course of action will be, you can discuss the objections with these two shareholders and then accordingly make a fresh application to the NCLT. Make a fresh application to NCLT, right? Or you can do that subsequent, though there is no provision, but in one of the case it was there that subsequently you can take their approval by affidavit and file it to NCLT, and that is thereafter it will be at the discretion of NCLT whether NCLT accepts or NCLT rejects. And if NCLT rejects, then you'll have to make a fresh application to NCLT. Got it? You remember the cases which we had discussed, that the scheme once sanctioned cannot be altered. One of the question I remember we had discussed that the scheme was approved, rejected, but then it was subsequently approved. Remember? Yes, this one. The scheme was not approved at the meeting by the requisite majority, but it was subsequently approved by the individual affidavits. So court may sanction the scheme, but at the discretion of the court. So that's what you can write it here also. Got it? Does this make sense? Does this make sense? This part, right? So let's see the next question. And the next question that we have is question 3, part E. Okay. So this is a simple one. It's a 3-mark question. Ideally, this question should have been asked for 5 marks. So the answer which we are going to write, we will write it as per 5 marks. Because this same question can get repeated. And if repeated, it would be asked in question number 1. One of the part of question number 1. Right? So it says that demerger is not expressly defined in the Companies Act. So how does an application move before NCLT for the demerger under the said act? So what is going to be the answer? So first of all, you are going to mention what is a demerger. Then you are going to mention that Companies Act do not define demerger. Demerger is defined in Income Tax Act. Okay. Need not mention the entire definition. You just mention that in one line, that demerger is not defined in Companies Act. It is defined in the Income Tax Act. So how does the application moves in the Companies Act? So under section 230 to 232, demerger takes place. Correct, Rituparna ji. 232 also includes the demerger. So the provisions of section 230 to 232 needs to be complied if a company wants to do demerger. Okay. So it will be pursuant to the scheme. It would be pursuant to the scheme. Does this make sense? Clear? Right? Okay. फिर हम आगे बढ़ते हैं and let's pick up December 2018. और December 2018 में आप देखो, you have question 1C. So this we had already discussed, that Secure Source Limited, an Indian company, is contemplating to take over Super Secure PTE Singapore through a process of merger, and its top management seeks your advice. Suggest the required compliances. So again, the merger would take through under section 234, read with section 230 to 232. Okay. Does this make sense? And then you're going to mention the entire, since it's a 5-mark question, you're going to mention the entire thing, what all compliances needs to be required. But make sure you mention everything about section 234. So is this a inbound merger or this is a outbound merger? Is this a inbound merger or this is a outbound merger? Inbound merger. So yesterday we mentioned everything about the inbound merger. Just mention that. Let's see. So this is that, right? This is how. This is going to be your answer. This is going to be a complete 5-mark answer. I would tell you, if I had to write this answer in exam and if I have time, I will write these points as well, right? I'm going to mention all these points. Apart from that, I would also mention the brief process which is there in section 230 and rule 25A again I would explain. So the FEMA regulation needs to be mentioned. After that, you need to mention rule 25A and then this section 230, 232. Okay. Does this make sense? Right? So in June 2018, we just had these two questions. Yes, the answer will be long, but I'll tell you, this will leave a very strong impact. See, this is your question number one. This is your question number one. And in question number one, you have this question. This is for 5 marks. So again, if you remember, I had mentioned, I discussed this before also, that the time allotment which you have, if it's a 3-mark question, so I'll tell you how will you work it out. So if it's a 3-mark question, you have somewhere around 5 minutes to write that answer. If it's a 5-mark question, you have somewhere around 7 to 8 minutes to write that answer. And if it's a 8-mark or 7 mark, so whatever it is, you just see. If it's a 1-mark question, you have 1.5 minutes to write that answer. I had explained this calculation also. Right now, what you have to see, that this is a 5-mark question. So anyway, you have 7 to 8 minutes. Writing additional point would again max require 3 to 4 minutes. Now these 3 to 4 minutes you will save on in some other question also. Why? I will tell you. Just check this question paper. So the topics that we have covered, in that you will realize that some of the question you're going to find where it will not require, like if it's a 5-mark question, that won't require 7 to 8 minutes. That will get covered in within 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Some of the questions you're going to get it that way. Like explain the 4 types of anti-takeover amendments. This won't require. So this is for a 5-mark question. This won't require too much time. Even this question, this won't require 7 to 8 minutes. This will get covered. So 1 or 2 minutes, if you just save it in 3 to 4 questions, you'll be able to get it right. Same way if you pick up the practical questions, right? The valuation practical question. So when we will do this practical question, this question is for 5 marks. So you have 7 to 8 minutes. But once you read this question, and if you click it in one go, trust me, this question will not even require 2 minutes to get solved. So you'll easily save. So this way you'll have to work it out. Okay. You'll have to work it out. So how it happens in cricket, 3 ball hai, you need 7 runs. Dhoni batting kar raha hai. You can take a single, but you will not take a single. Why? Because in the next ball, Dhoni sixer maar dega. So that's what goes here also, right? So you'll have to work it out this way, because this is a question where you can actually, and this is question number 1. I'm not saying that you'll have to waste too much of time, right? Don't spend 15-20 minutes in this answer, but 7 to 8 minutes is the scheduled time which you are going to anyway spend it for the answer. So in 7 to 8 minutes, you'll be anyway through with lot of provision. Sorry. So in 7 to 8 minutes, you won't require 7 to 8 minutes to write this answer. This you won't require 7 to 8 minutes. Okay. After that, how much ever you can write, depending on your handwriting speed and everything, because all that also matters. So try to give some 10 minutes to these kind of questions in case there is a question where you can, because this way you can show to the examiner that you have not just it's not a scanner based answer you have prepared or just the module based, because you're writing about the FEMA regulations. You have also mentioned about the Companies Act, even about the rules. So all that will leave a very strong impression on the examiner that you are acquainted and at least you have studied everything, right? Like this question will not require 5 marks. This is a 5-mark question, but this will not require 7 to 8 minutes. AS 14 and Ind AS 103. This is a very simple question. This can get completed within 3 minutes. 3 minutes is like maximum, I'm telling you, right? So you will save on this way. So while you read the question paper, so when you get that question paper, while you read that, try to identify that either this question will require some more time, this question will require little less. So how you can manage it out, right? And that's why I say that you should practice these past papers in writing, like 3 hours, sit and just practice this. So make strategy. So for old syllabus, I used to say, practice once by starting with part C, then practice once by starting with part B, then practice once by starting with part A. So make some permutation combination and just check how your paper gets over. Right. So this way you can improve it. Right. Okay. So after this question, there is one more question which is asked in this attempt. Okay. This is a 3 mark question. Is it possible for a shareholder to seek a amendment to the exchange ratio embodied in a scheme while considering the resolution put forth for approval? Support your answer with a decided case law. So what should be the answer for this? Rather discussing the answer, I think we should first discuss whether shareholder can seek amendment or not. Can shareholder say no, swap ratio should not be 1:1, I should get 2:1?
No,
Can
sir.
that be done?
I don't think he can
Okay.
seek the amendment because altogether
Okay.
exchange ratio is being decided by the merchant banker, the valuer, right? So I think.
Right. Perfect. So here the answer would be same, that shareholder cannot seek a amendment. Shareholder cannot seek that amendment in the exchange ratio. Exchange ratio is a matter of valuation, and that valuation is again made by the valuer, registered valuer. And if it's a listed company, then merchant banker, or as per the SEBI regulation. Thereafter, you'll have to mention that if the shareholder is not, you cannot write comfortable. If the shareholder is not, or you can write it this way, the shareholder can dissent. The shareholder can dissent to the scheme if the exchange ratio is not as per his calculation or whatever. You can write it that way. Correct? So the shareholder can only assent or dissent, but he cannot suggest the alteration. And that's where the invalid votes which I had mentioned gets rejected. Remember? If you remember, we had discussed invalid votes is to be ignored. They say that the swap ratio is 1:1, और वो बोले swap ratio, I agree to the scheme, but swap ratio 4:1 करने से I agree, otherwise I do not. So ऐसे votes को हम ignore करते हैं, right? So this needs to be taken care. Okay, right?
So
So
what
this
is the case law that we need to mention in this?
I mentioned na, that because see these all are the case laws which they give. It was in the old syllabus module they
Okay.
had given all those minuscule case laws. So what I'll do, I'll just make a list of those case laws and I can give it to you, because all those
Okay.
case laws which they are asking, they all are from 1960s. Some of them are from the English case laws. So I really doubt that you'll be able to remember. So Mihir Mafatlal is one of the case which you'll remember once we go to valuation. Once we go to stamp duty, you'll remember the Hindustan Lever case. So some of the famous case laws, I'll share it with you all. But these case laws are like, seems little difficult to remember. That's why. But nevertheless, what I'll do, whatever in these 6 attempts, the cases which they have asked, or these 8 attempts they have asked, I'll make a list of all those case laws and I'll share it with you all. So if you can remember, you can quote those case laws. Otherwise, the crux I have discussed. So the slide that I have made here, na, this slide is totally made from all the case laws which were there in the old syllabus module. So if you're from old syllabus like Priyanka, you can check the old syllabus module. You'll find all these cases. And in the same sequence, you are going to find all these cases in the old syllabus module, because I've
So
picked up again from the module.
एक्चुअली यू हैड ऑलरेडी डिस्क वन, मतलब जो आपने एक बार आपने वीडियो डाला था जिसमें आपने एंटायर लाइक लास्ट डे एलडीआर
LDR
सीरीज.
series, yes. In that, I had again discussed. So again, in that, so
Yeah.
that LDR series was again from the module, and in that module, again, I had picked up all these cases because that time I had not made this PPT.
Yes, sir. That's how I know those case laws. I've kind of studied.
Yes. So this slide, the 18 pages slide that I have made, this is again from the module only. Is all from the module. I had picked up and I had made it from the module that these are the from the judicial pronouncements, because what I had noticed that practically, again, if you ask me also that, sir, do you remember the case law? Even I don't remember the case law. Like, I can say it on record. If I have to answer this question, I cannot write the case law name. I don't remember all the case laws. But yes, the major case laws I do remember, right? But I also at the same time I remember what was pronounced in a particular judgment. So I know, so if a similar kind of a situation comes, like if they ask you this kind of a question, whether shareholder can ask for amendment in the exchange ratio, I know the answer. I can mention that uh, shareholder cannot ask for an amendment in the exchange ratio. They can only dissent or assent to the scheme. Okay. In fact, here
The
you can also quote Mihir Mafatlal, because this is again pursuant to that valuation part. So Mihir Mafatlal judgment also can come here.
the reason why I asked, because क्योंकि उन्होंने specifically answer to the
Absolutely.
decided case law
Yes,
बोला ना,
yes,
तो
yes,
maybe I
yes.
thought there is a marks for that.
No, no, there is, definitely there is. But I always say that, 1 mark you can lose if you don't mention the case name. And that too, examiner is not very strict on the case law name. If you have answered the concept correctly, so let's say if you have answered this correctly, you'll get 2 on 3 easily. So for that 1 mark, remembering the case laws, and again, if you write a wrong case law here, then wrong case law name, then again it becomes difficult, because then you lose marks. So that's why I always say to my students that, stay safe.
Okay, sir, fine.
That's
Noted.
how. But I'll still share the list of the case laws. If you can remember, you can pick up. So at the most, what you can do, all the questions which have been asked in from like December 2017, June 2017 till the December 2019 attempt. So what we can do for these attempts, we can pick up the questions. Okay. So all the judgments which are there will pick up, and at least we can remember all those judgments. So if any question which is asked from the past year paper, at least we should be able to write that. So I'll do that. And Divya, for Mihir Mafatlal, I'll tell you. Mihir Mafatlal, I'll again give you a list. When we do that valuation part, I'll give you a list that Mihir Mafatlal judgment, pronounces these principles of scheme and compromise and arrangement and for mergers. There are a lot of things which are there for Mihir Mafatlal. So once we do go for the valuation part, there I'll discuss that. And same way for stamp duty, I'll discuss it when we do that Hindustan Lever judgment. We'll do it there. In one of the Reliance judgment, Reliance Industries judgment, which is not even there in the module, we will discuss that also, because those are the recent judgments and those are the landmark judgments which are there, right? So we can include that in the answer, right? So this is for the December 2018 attempt. Now let's go to June 2019 attempt, and this is old syllabus. Okay. So first we'll do the old syllabus part and then we'll go there. Okay. So this is again explain inbound merger and outbound merger 5 mark question. So Priyanka, this is another that question where you can easily spend 10 minutes writing the answer. This is that type of a question. You can easily spend 10 minutes because again, this is worth it. If you spend 10 minutes for this answer, you can show to the examiner that you know, because I'll tell you, not many students will be able to write the answer correctly for this, because normally students, they'll ignore the cross-border merger regulation. That is what actually had happened in this attempt, because students were not expecting any questions from section 233, 234. So they went again with those scanner questions of 230, 232. And when these kind of questions were asked, so again, you face the problem. Okay. So there, if you present your answer better, you can again stand yourself out from the crowd. Okay. So this will be helpful if you can write. So I'm not discussing this question again. We just finished this topic yesterday. So inbound and outbound merger, completely you are going to mention it there. Now, when they have said explain, clearly mention what is a inbound merger, what is a outbound merger, and then features and the features. Okay. So moving ahead, December 2019. So in June 2019, there was only one question which was asked. And in December 2019, you have 3 questions from the Old syllabus part from the mergers. Okay. This is one question, unexpected question which was asked. Now, again, Priyanka, this is that question where you will not require, it's a 5 mark question. You will not require 7 to 8 minutes to write answer for this question. Just see this, what it talks about. This question, can anyone just mention which section you will quote in this question?
231.
Fantastic. So section 231. Section 231, the third power which we had discussed, that the NCLT has the power to even order for the liquidation of the company in case the company will not be able to implement the scheme, or it will not be able to repay its debt. So NCLT has the power. Now tell me, Priyanka, will this require too much time? Answer is no. And you have written the entire answer, because that's what, but some of the answer you'll have a lot of content, so that's how you can compensate it, right? So this is one question. Yeah.
समटाइम्स मतलब ऐसा लगता है कि अगर थोड़ा लिखने से मतलब शायद एग्जाम में
Nahi,
कम मार्क्स ना
nahi,
दे.
nahi. Nahi, nahi, I'll tell you. That's again one of the myth which is there in case of the professional exams, that the length of the answer matters. No, it's the provisions of the answer matter. So in this question, you cannot write anything else. This is only section 231, subsection 2, precisely that you have to write here. There is nothing else which you can write here. So you have to be very specific in your answer. And if there is anything extra which you can write, like in the previous question, they had asked about the inbound and outbound merger. Okay. They had not asked about the contents and everything. So technically you can write, if this answer question is asked for 3 marks, I will just define what is an inbound merger. I'll define what is an outbound merger. I'll define the resulting company and everything. If it's a 5 mark question, like in this, I would not just define, I would also mention that in case of inbound merger, what all provisions are required. In case of outbound merger, what all provisions are required, even though it is not asked, because this is a 5 mark question. So for 5 mark question, I would try to write the auxiliary provisions also there. I would restrict myself only to the FEMA regulations. I will not mention section 230, 232, 234, rule 25A. I'll just give a reference to that. That company will also have to comply, or such a merger would take place under section 234, read with section 230, 231, 232, along with rule 25A. That's the concluding line I would mention. But everything with whatever we have discussed yesterday from the FEMA regulations, I would mention all that in the answer, because this is a 5 mark question. If it would have been a 3 mark question, I would have defined what is the inbound merger, outbound merger, and such a merger would take place under section 234, read by 230, 231, 232, and the rule 25A. Okay. So again, depending on how much you can write and what time you have, that you need to mention in the answer. Okay. So this is another question which was a straightforward question that was asked in the exam. Now we have 1D. All right. Just check this. Now, this was a surprise question. This was a real surprise question, because no one had expected this, that non-compliance or contravention of the requirement under the Companies Act 2013 and rules framed thereunder in framing or implementing a scheme of compromise and arrangement involving transferor and transferee company may result in prosecution. So this was a surprise question, because normally they don't ask questions with respect to the prosecution and all the penalties and everything, but here they had asked, and if you remember the answer you can write, otherwise you'll not be able to answer. So here the answer is section 232 subsection 8. Simple, nothing else. Punishments. Fantastic, Vinita. Yeah.
I was actually thinking that 231 का कुछ quote करके and we have tried,
Why?
since there is no
No,
I
231.
totally
So
forgot about that.
no, so 231, I'll tell you, 231 doesn't talk about anything else. 231 only gives these 3 powers. There is nothing about the contravention or the punishments or the prosecution. Nothing. 231 doesn't talk about anything. It's section 232 subsection 8. So I'll show you here. Could we have a Bear Act also here? So you see this. If the transferor company, I'll just zoom in it a little so that you can read. So if the transferor or the transferee company contravenes the provisions of this section, the transferor company or the transferee company, as the case may be, shall be punishable with a fine which shall not be less than 1 lakh rupees, which may extend up to 25 lakh rupees, and every officer of such transfer or the transferee company who is in default shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend up to 1 year, with fine which shall not be less than 1 lakh but which may extend up to 3 lakh rupees, or with both. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right, so this is purely section 230 subsection 8, nothing else you have to write. So this was an unexpected question which normally institute doesn't ask, but in this attempt they had asked. So again, if you know the answer you can write rest, otherwise I always say to the executive level students, I always say if a question comes of penalty, just remember one amount, 1 lakh, 25 lakh, just remember that company officer in default. So that way if you bluff, that can fetch you again 2 marks, which is like a good number. In case you don't know the answer and still you get 2 on 5, that's a good number which you have scored. So sometimes the bluffing works but not always, right? So here you can do that. So this again I'm telling it to you all also, that in case you get a question which is regarding the penalties and all, and in case you don't remember, don't leave that question, just write that the company will be punishable with a fine of 1 lakh which may extend up to 25 lakhs, and then same the officer in default 1 lakh to 25 lakhs, and imprisonment that you can write 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or whatever you, because I had seen one of the certified copy of CS executive accounts paper. So in that the question was asked, it was a 5 mark question. The question was asked with respect to the penal provisions against the auditor, and the student had just written one line: the auditor will be liable for a penalty of 1 lakh rupees or something, and that student had got 1 mark, and student didn't had no idea about the answer. She just wrote that auditor is going to be penalized and the penalty amount will be 1 lakh, and that was 1 mark she got. So I'll tell you that really helps. Okay, so sometimes this way bluffing works it out. Yes,
Like in this, do we have to explain the sentence that is given or just write the provision under 232(8)?
just the provision, just the provision,
Fine.
nothing else you need to write.
Because it was
Okay,
given briefly explained, so I had a doubt.
okay, so I'll show you. See, I'll show you that certified copy also. Now you see this. The penal provisions applicable to auditors, 1 lakh. This is not even the right answer. I'll tell you, this is not even the right answer. So this is in case of in case of any misstatement in the balance sheet and in penalty, shall be charged with a fine and imprisonment as mentioned in the law, 5 lakh for the offense. Now, first of all, if there is a misstatement in the balance sheet, how can auditor be responsible for that? Right? And then 5 lakh for the offense, but which offense, which section, which provision, no idea, but still you see student got 1 mark, right? So sometimes this happens. Okay, and I'll show you one more answer of this, though it's not related to our CRI paper, but I can just share it. See this answer, I don't know whether you all remember this or not. The internal control, preventive control, detective
Auditing.
control, auditing. So, right, the preventive control, detective control is given. Segregation of duty, accuracy. Only 2 functions are explained. But you know, she has written one example here. She has written one example here, and in detective, she has written these 3 points and nothing. What is her score? She has got 4 marks. Okay. Now I'll show you one more certified copy of the same attempt, right? And this student has written complete answer and he has got 2 marks. Sometimes it's very unfair. I'll just show you that answer. Yeah. So this is, he has written preventive, authorization, segregation, security of the asset. So this is what is actually written in the module, and detective control. Now see, student has got 2 marks. What she has done, she has written one example. So it's all about the art of presentation, right? And same way, I'll show you one more question in practical. What happens if you make one minor mistake? So if you remember, profit or loss, prior incorporation, post incorporation. See, the answer is so nicely. She has made a working note. This is the time ratio which she has calculated. This is the sales ratio which she has calculated here. Everything is correct. See, everything is correct. The entire answer is correct. Only thing, she has written this wrong. Bad debts was given in actuals. Like the pre and the post bad debts were actual, the actual amounts were given, but she had split in the sales ratio, which is anyway correct. If no, the actual is not given, you split bad debts in the sales ratio only. Now see, she has got 2 marks on 5. Now I'll show you this guy's answer copy. Okay. Now if you check this guy's answer copy, see, the ratio is also not calculated, not shown. If you see, oh, if you see, no ratio, no working note, nothing. Correct. Now if you see, everything is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. 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 Only this is correct. TR, SR, and you see the presentation. I mean, if you just compare these two answers, this is mentioned in the prepared in such a nice manner, and this is not. Here, student has got 1 mark. Here, you see, in spite of having a correct answer, almost correct answer with 1 mistake, she has got 2 marks. So I'm not defending either of the student, but I'm just telling you this is how it happens in case of the professional exam, and this is where I will call it as a luck. Why? Because she got 46 here. Okay. Her aggregate was 97. She had exemption in one of the paper, security law plus this, that was 97 or 98. I think she was just missed by 2 marks. And if you see this guy, he got 5 marks for rationalization. If the other student had got this 5 marks for rationalization, the other student would have cleared. Anyway, both of them couldn't clear. She cleared, I mean, she got left with the aggregate. This guy had aggregate, but in accounts he had 31. So he couldn't clear in this attempt. So next attempt he got 60. She again got 46, but SEBI she got 58, and that's how she cleared. So that's what I'm telling you. I've seen so many certified copy. Why they have given 5 marks, even I don't know. Rationalization, I've seen in a lot of certified copies. One of the reason what I could think was that he had attempted in the sequence. So maybe for rationalization, or what is the rationale for this rationalization, even I don't know. I'm not aware of it. But yes, they do ask. I mean, they do give this kind of, sometimes it's 3 marks rationalization, sometimes they give 2 marks for rationalization. I don't know what is the rationale behind this, but these certified copy, even you got, congratulations, right? But again, I have no idea. I have no idea why this rationalization is given here. Okay. Chalo, so let's move ahead. So I'll tell you the reason I ask the students to get their certified copy is 2 reasons. One is, with the certified copy, they also understand where they have made the mistake. And secondly, with their certified copy, as a professor, I get to know that what mistakes normally happens in the paper. So when I tell you that most of the students had done this also, because in my crash course, whatever crash course I take here, all the students who have not cleared their attempt, who have not taken classes from me, but they have not cleared their attempt, okay, they come for my crash course. Most of the students for CRI in the crash course, they are only those students those who have not taken classes from me. Some of them have taken classes from me and they have not cleared. So I don't claim that my result is 100%, but yes, those students who have not taken the regular batch from me, they couldn't clear and they come for the crash course. So when they come for the crash course, they come up with their certified copy, and then again this 50-60 hour crash course, whatever I take, in that I mean, I try to work out on their mistake. So their certified copy, it's like an open forum. The certified copy will be in the open forum, that what mistake you have done, so we discuss it at the beginning of the session, and then we discuss at the end of the session, that now you analyze your own paper, what mistakes you have done. So that is the reason that most of the students from crash course, they get 60, 65, 50, 55. This 55 to 65 is the range of the students, those who clear. And the reason is because we have worked out only on the mistakes. Some mistakes from our own paper and some mistakes from the certified copy of the other students or for the fellow batchmates, where they have made some mistake which we don't have to repeat it. Okay, so one of the certified copy I'll show you. It was, I mean, you see, that student, she couldn't clear her paper in aggregate. Now she has cleared. In the last attempt she has cleared, but only she got flunked in the aggregate. It was a 5-mark valuation question, and I think it was this attempt only, December 2019. No, it was June 2019. I'll tell you in that practical question what silly mistake she had done. So in this, the question was very easy. I'll tell you. It was such a simple question. Yes, exactly. It was such a simple question. Now tell me, what is going to be the earnings per share of this? What is going to be the earnings per share of FM Limited? Because you had to calculate earnings per share. Now I'll tell you, if your earnings per share is wrong, your entire question is wrong, even though they have given breakup. But if your EPS is wrong, your P ratio and everything goes wrong. So what had happened? This student had EPS, you will calculate 2000 lakh divided by 200 lakh. So ideally the EPS of FM Limited is 10 and the EPS of VM Limited is 4. Just I'm telling you what mistake she had done. She had written 10 lakhs. This she had written 4 lakhs. Now what had happened? When she calculated the total value, everything got wrong. And the only mistake in her answer was lakhs. So answer was, let's say, whatever the answer was, she had written just this lakhs. So if the correct answer is 500, she has written 500 lakhs. She got 0 in this question. Because the correct answer was 500 and not lakhs. So this kind of error I have again seen. Again, December 2014 attempt. I'll tell you, that time I was in Assam. That was my last regular batch in Assam that I had taken. 15 students had attempted, right? And they all were in the same classroom. All of them got the same answer. It was a valuation question. I'll show you that December 2014 valuation question. All of them got same answer. All of them got 0. You know what was the mistake? The question was, it was like this. So if this is the question paper, here there was a balance sheet and here the information was given. So in the balance sheet, they had written like this, rupees in thousands. So it was like this. 30 lakh was written 3,000. Now what had happened? Instead of dividing 30 lakh divided by 3 lakh, this was taken as this way, 3,000 divided by 3 lakh. Now the entire answer was wrong just by 2 zeros, and they exactly got 2 0. Are you understanding? And this is, I would say, this is the mischief of the student institute, that how can you write 30 lakh as 3,000. I'll show you that question paper when we will do the valuation part. So yes, it is only because of the pressure. It is only because of the pressure you do not, you are not able to write the answer properly, and you commit these kind of mistakes. So yes, exactly. So either in too much of excitement or, you know, in too much of pressure, you don't know. So I'll tell you, I mean, I teach CRI. Okay, so this can go against me also. You know what was my score in CRI when I gave? It was 46. I just passed. I just passed 46. What was my target to get in CRI? It was at least I wanted to get 75, but I got 46. And you know why? One of the major reason. You can go and check December 2011 question paper. Question number 1. It was a 10-mark question which was asked for demerger. I had placed too much emphasis on mergers. I had placed too much emphasis on takeover, valuation, winding up, SARFAESI, all these. Demerger was probably one of the chapter which I had left. And right now, demerger is, the process of the demerger is under the Companies Act, Section 230, 232. The process for merger and demerger is same. During that time, demerger, we had some different code rules. Company Code Rules 1957 was applicable. Now imagine I had left demerger, left in the sense I was not very confident on that. Rest takeover and everything, I'll tell you. You just wake me up in the night, slap me and ask me a question on any of these topic. Valuation, SARFAESI, winding up, takeover, mergers. I can tell you everything. I knew the case laws and everything perfectly. But when I saw this question, the panic button got pressed because immediately I had that pressure. Now, how will I get 75? If I attempt 90 marks paper properly, will I get 75? No, I'll just get 60. Now, see, in the grief that I'll just get 60, I scored 46. Are you understanding? So that's the kind of pressure you get into, and some of the pressure which we built ourselves, right? So I feel I am never ashamed of sharing these mistakes which I did, because I don't want you all to do the same mistake here. And that's the reason I share the certified copy also, because of these reasons, that please don't make these kind of mistakes in the paper. Okay, so let's go back to the paper. Yes, for 20 marks, I'll tell you, insolvency for old syllabus, it's like, I don't know who decided the syllabus. Break up that 20 marks, and 30 marks valuation is like way too much. That's how they balance it out. So this was December 2019 attempt. So we just did question number 1D. There's one more question from this chapter. Okay. This is again a repeated question. Fairness, reasonableness, and made in good faith are the premise on which the judicial authority approve any scheme of amalgamation, merger, or demerger. Offer your comments supported by any judicial pronouncements. So just now, what we had covered, this is about. This is all from the judicial pronouncements. So this is going to be your answer, that the scheme is made in good faith, the scheme is fair and reasonable, it will yield smooth and satisfactory working, all those things. Case laws, you can write many. Okay, so this is that repeated question. So we have packed up all the questions from the old syllabus. Okay, now we'll pick up the new syllabus paper, and in new syllabus paper we have June 2019. So a lot of questions they have asked, few of them we had discussed. The board of directors of M&M Limited, a small company, is considering to merge with BRQ Limited, another small company. The board wants the merger to be fast and seeks your opinion about the conditions to be complied in this respect. Render your opinion. So what is going to be the answer? Now, since you all have studied this, so I expect a correct answer from you all. What all broad points you are going to cover here for this answer? What all you are going to write here? You can unmute and you can tell. Section 233 is correct, but what in section 233? You have to be very specific, because the other day also we had discussed section 233 is asked thrice, 15 marks from section 233 only. We'll see that. The next two questions which we are going to solve is from again section 233. Yeah.
Something like the approval कितने लोगों से लेना है, and what is the other statutory approvals that is required, and the time limit.
Okay.
And we have to mention that NCLT is not involved here.
Right. So
233(1).
right. So here Vinita has answered it very specifically. The process, objections, forms with the rule. So broadly you have to write the process. That the merger should take place, right? So even if you remember the form numbers and all, or if you don't remember the form numbers and all, that would also go, but you need to mention that how this merger is going to get through. sending that notice to the official liquidator. So if you remember, I had shared that slide with you all for section 233. When we did section 233, I had mentioned. So this is the slide which you need to mention. The 4 slides. This is a 5 slide PDF. You just need to mention the 4 slides still here. Okay. Does this make sense? हाँ अभिषेक बिल्कुल करेक्ट. CAA to ROC ऑफिशियल लिक्विडेटर और अफेक्टेड पर्सन, और उसके बाद आपका पूरा जो प्रोसेस होगा आप वहां पर उसको मेंशन करोगे. ये एग्जैक्टली जैसे आपको यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है. आपका नोटिस जाएगा, फिर डिक्लेरेशन ऑफ सॉल्वेंसी जाएगा, फिर आप मीटिंग को कन्वीन करोगे, एंड देन मीटिंग कैसे अप्रूव होगा ये जाएगा, और उसके बाद में रीजनल डायरेक्टर है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, वो आपके स्कीम को या तो अप्रूव करेगा या फिर आपके स्कीम को वो एनसीएलटी को भेजेगा दैट आपका मर्जर सेक्शन 232 के अंदर होना चाहिए. राइट. ऑलराइट. सो इसके बाद में वी हैव वन मोर क्वेश्चन, क्वेश्चन नंबर 2A. चलिए ये क्वेश्चन आप देखो. दिस इज 234. सो देखो GKL, अरे बाप रे, दिस वेरी कंफ्यूजिंग. GKL Limited, an Indian company, it intends to amalgamate with PS Limited, a foreign company. Examine the legal provisions that have to be complied with for such an amalgamation. अब आप बताओ इसमें क्या आंसर लिखोगे. Now don't say 234. Don't say 234. I want to know what is going to be the exact answer. 234 में भी आप अगर लिखोगे तो आप क्या लिखोगे यहाँ पर. I want to know the exact provision. First of all, tell me, this is an this is an inbound merger or a outbound merger. RBI approval, correct. Inbound, ये आउटबाउंड मर्जर हुआ. आप देखो, इंडियन कंपनी इंटेंड्स टू अमेलगमेट विद पीएस लिमिटेड, तो ये क्या हो गया आपका आउटबाउंड मर्जर. तो कल हमने जो फेमा रेगुलेशंस पढ़ा था ना, वो पूरा यहाँ पर आ जाएगा. आउटबाउंड मर्जर का पूरा फेमा रेगुलेशंस यहाँ पे आ जाएगा.
Jurisdiction in which it is allowed, that IUSCO.
Yes, yes. So that is rule 25A. That you are telling, what you are saying is rule 25A, right? So that you are going to mention. So first of all, legal provision. So you're going to start. Okay, I'll just write the answer for this question. That will be better. So this is June 2019 new syllabus, and this is question 2A. So the broad provisions which you have to write. First of all, you are going to mention about the jurisdiction. Then you are going to say that the merger will take place under section 234 read with rule 25A plus your section 230 to 232. So this will be in brief. After that, you are going to write जो अभी अभिषेक आपने बोला था, that you need to take RBI approval, correct? And RBI approval आपको deemed मिला हुआ है, remember? And it will be deemed if it complies or if the merger complies with the FEMA regulation. अब FEMA regulation ये तो आपको याद रख लेना चाहिए, FEMA और Foreign Exchange Management Cross Border Merger Regulation 2018. और उसके बाद में आप बताओगे that this is an outbound merger, और outbound merger के अंदर क्या क्या करना है वो आप मेंशन करोगे. एंड सी दिस इज अ 5 मार्क क्वेश्चन. सो अगेन ये वो वाला क्वेश्चन है जिसमें आपको एग्जामिनर को पूरा शो ऑफ करके आना है दैट यू नो एवरीथिंग. ओके, सो राइट एवरीथिंग इन दिस आंसर. दिस इज द ओनली क्वेश्चन ऑफ सेक्शन 234. तो आप यहाँ पर पूरा अपने हुनर का प्रदर्शन करोगे. 233 में आपको 3 बार मौका मिला है, तो आप स्टेप बाय स्टेप एक एक करके हर एक क्वेश्चन में आप बताओगे. बट 234 दिस इज द सोल क्वेश्चन व्हिच हैज बीन आस्क्ड. सो इफ दैट इज आस्क्ड, प्लीज राइट the entire process. Yeah.
Sir, shouldn't we write this outbound merger card like introduction or something? What you gave it in the last at the beginning of the question?
Yes. So you will mention it.
थोड़ा explanation.
एक लाइन में जाएगा. Yes, you will mention why this is a outbound merger, because the resulting company will be a foreign company, and therefore the following condition needs to be, or the following provision needs to be complied with. Okay. Now, again, this question, small companies. Under Companies Act 1956, small companies were deterred from entering into mergers owing to the lengthy process, and the Companies Act 2013 provided a solution. So here you need to mention the introduction of section 233, what was before, what is now. Okay. So small companies, they can merge. And in addition, you will also mention that even a holding company and its wholly owned subsidiary company, that also gets covered under section 233 subsection 3. Right? This we had discussed. Now there is another question 2a. So ये दो आपके question है. This is such a funny question. This they have asked from the accounts question paper. This was the accounts question paper which they had asked. When we'll do valuation, I'll show you. Okay, this is the question. So Brakes Limited, a small company manufacturing brakes, proposes to merge with Lubricants, another small company. ROC objected the scheme that it is not in the interest of the creditor. Comment on the further steps. Now, this is a very specific question which they have asked. And what is so specific here? You just need to mention what happens if the regional director rejects the scheme. So ROC will forward their objections to the regional director, to the central government, and if regional director deems fit, regional director may sanction the merger, or regional director may forward the application to NCLT within 60 days, so that the merger should be considered under section 232 route. There NCLT is going to decide whether the merger should be sanctioned or the merger should go through within the or as per the 232 route. Got it? So I'll just make a chart for this. Okay, so refer the slide for the chart. So this is again June 2019, new syllabus, question number, this is 2A, part 3. So ROC is going to submit its objection to the regional director. Regional director may sanction the scheme, or regional director may reject the scheme. If regional director rejects the scheme, then within 60 days, regional director will file the application to NCLT. Right? If rejected, or if no action is taken within 60 days, then deemed there is no objection. Then NCLT will decide whether the scheme is sanctioned, or you need to go through section 230 to 232 route. Does this make sense? Probably yes, you can, but chart is only auxiliary. It is not the substitute for the main answer. Try to avoid, I would say, it's not that you'll get a negative marking or something, but try to avoid where charting is not required. So here, because if you write a tick, you'll have to mention that it may sanction or it may not sanction. If not sanctioned, then 60 days NCLT, then NCLT may sanction. So maybe this chart you can make. There's nothing that bars you from making the charts. You can make the charts, but try to avoid, because again, the time constraint, taking into consideration the time constraint, that's it. Okay. So Priyanka has mentioned, sir, for almost of the question are like the items, which is a menu card of 5 stall. Okay. Just check another question. ये देखो. So small companies can only opt for fast track merger. Elucidate briefly identifying the small companies. So here you have to answer 2 questions. ये देखो, ये 3 मार्क का क्वेश्चन है, ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन ये आपको, बिकॉज यहाँ पर आपको 2 चीज लिखना है. एक तो क्या, दैट स्मॉल कंपनी कैन, ये देखो ये वर्ड गड़बड़ है, ओनली ऑप्ट फॉर फास्ट ट्रैक मर्जर। क्या ऐसा होता है कि स्मॉल कंपनी सिर्फ फास्ट ट्रैक मर्जर ही कर सकते हैं? आंसर इज नो। सॉरी, इसमें नहीं है, गई थोड़ा ज्यादा एनालिसिस कर दिया। कैन स्मॉल कंपनी के, हाँ नहीं बराबर करेक्ट, तो इसमें आपको दोनों तरफ से आंसर लिखना होगा। दैट यहाँ पे जो दिया हुआ है, स्मॉल कंपनी कैन ओनली ऑप्ट फॉर फास्ट ट्रैक मर्जर, आंसर इज नो। अ कंपनी मे ऑप्ट, बिल्कुल करेक्ट ऋतुपर्णा जी। इसके अलावा फिर आप ये भी बताओगे स्मॉल कंपनी क्या होता है। सो हियर योर आंसर विल बी टू पार्ट, वन इज मे और मे नॉट for the fast track part, right? And the second part is what is a small company? You need to mention that. Okay. Now, this is another question. Cross-border merger not only brings, okay, this we will do some later part. Or rather, you can answer this question also. Cross-border merger not only brings benefit, but also assumes risk. Briefly comment on the specific provision of the Companies Act. क्या लिखोगे इसका आंसर? कहीं पर आपको रिस्क समझ में आया क्या? कहीं पर आपको रिस्क समझ में आया?
सॉरी,
So this is a very generic answer which they have mentioned. Yes, विनीता ने एक बताया टैक्सेशन रिस्क, सो यहाँ पर सबसे बड़ा तो टैक्सेशन हो जाएगा।
so but they've specifically asked specific provision under Companies Act,
So
right?
that's what I say, that as per the Companies Act, the only risk which are there, it is Rule 25A with respect to the jurisdiction. That's it. Otherwise, you'll have to mention the other things only. The taxation part, the
Then
biggest
if
risk.
you mention something like out of the thing, then won't it be wrong? Like some.
So I'll tell you, in the Companies Act, okay, in the Companies Act, the only risk that you have is Rule 25A. That's just the jurisdiction. That you may propose a merger, but the company doesn't fall into that jurisdiction. That's the only risk which is there in the Companies Act. You cannot even say the scheme is not sanctioned because, again, it is only about the cross border merger. So you have to be very specific. So if for cross-border merger, it's only Rule 25A. So thereafter, you'll have to mention the other risks. Yes. Yes, Vinita, it is there. In the new syllabus, since section 234 is made all together as a new chapter, there we will get it. We'll do the module evaluation also. Right? Anyway, so this June 2019 new syllabus paper is done. Now let's go ahead to the December attempt. December question number 1A. Opening batsman from this question, this chapter. Now tell me what is going to be the answer for this. That elucidate the requirement of registration of the offer or the scheme involving transfer of shares under 2013. What is going to be the answer for this? Rather, this we have not done. Sorry, this we have not done. This will be for section 238. Not right now. This is not right now. This we are going to do after 235, 236. So the next question that we have is 2B. Differentiate between inbound and outbound merger. What are the laws governing the cross-border merger? मेरे को तो लगता है एक ये क्वेश्चन ना, इनबाउंड एंड आउटबाउंड मर्जर, ये तो आप लिख के पूरा प्रैक्टिस ही कर लो, अच्छे से प्रैक्टिस कर लो। यस अभिषेक ऋतुपर्णा जी, वो 238 से है, मैंने इसीलिए उसको हटा दिया एक बार, उसको एक बार मैंने इसीलिए हटा दिया रजिस्ट्रेशन वाला। आई हैड इंटरप्रेटेड समथिंग एल्स, बट वो अभी रियलाइज हुआ रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ द ऑफर ऑफ द स्कीम है, ये 238 आ जाएगा अपना, इट्स नॉट कम हियर। बट ये देखो मैं बताता हूँ, अपन ने जो फर्स्ट यहाँ पे स्लाइड चेक किया था ना, ये देखो 235, it said this is the registration of the scheme. ये 238 का आंसर होगा, so not here.
सर
Yes.
बट जो आपने अभी जो दिखाया था ट्रांसफर ऑफ शेयर्स, वो 232 के हिसाब से भी लाइक व्हेन द शेयर्स और द एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज, उस हिसाब से भी वी कैन मेक द
नहीं
आंसर।
नहीं नहीं, वो अलग है, वो अलग है. The answer here, it is only registration of the scheme which
ओके
involves transfer of shares. This is straight away section 238. The heading of section 238 goes this only. So यहाँ पर वो नहीं आएगा. It was my mistake. Right. Okay. So ये वाला question again I said inbound and outbound merger. I really feel that आप लोगों को अच्छे से पूरा prepare कर लेना चाहिए. Right. Benita, in your new syllabus, this will be under chapter 2, takeover of unlisted company, section 238. We have not yet covered, we have not covered that. This we are going to cover tomorrow. Section 235, 236, 238 we are going to cover in the next lecture, right? So ये आंसर आप लोग यहाँ पे प्रिपेयर करें. And what are the laws governing the cross border merger? So clearly mention that your Companies Act, FEMA, right? Rule 25A, companies compromise and arrangement rules and everything. Yes, for unlisted 235 will be applicable. So this when we will do that chapter, we'll get back to this question. Okay. So next, if we see question 3A. So again, ये देखो, amazing question. What are the details to be disclosed in the explanatory statement of the notice of the meeting in respect of the scheme of compromise or arrangement? Now, drafting का question तो नहीं है, but ये drafting से निकल के आ जाता है. That what are the details which you are going to disclose? Now see, I'll tell you, this is a 3-mark question and it's an unexpected question. They have never asked this kind of a question. आप मुझे बताओ, explanatory statement. Why do we need an explanatory statement? Forget this question. Companies Act में why do we need an explanatory statement?
To explain the entire process that we are going to, like whether it is a preferential issue, तो क्यों ला रहे हो, and what are the whom are we offering it, what is the price, etc.
Right. And special resolution के साथ में आपका यहाँ पे बताया हुआ है, ठीक है? Right? तो आपका explanatory statement जाएगा. Now, the resolution or the notice which you are sending is for the scheme of compromise or arrangement. Now tell me what you are going to involve in the explanatory statement. Even if you just bluff, आप बताओ क्या क्या रहेगा. Mergers और amalgamation में क्या क्या चीजें होती है?
The name of the acquirer, the date of acquisition.
Right. Who are the transferor company? Who are a transferee company? Or who are the parties involved? Everything.
Price at which that is happening.
Right. So ये आपके explanatory statement का पूरा part हो जाएगा. So if you don't know the answer, आप यहाँ पे आराम से क्या कर सकते हो? You can write the basic part because it's a 3-mark question. So you'll get again 2 marks. Somewhere around 2 marks you can easily fetch in this answer. Now, Vinita is saying that we have rule 6. Companies compromise and arrangement amalgamation rules. We have rule 6. तो rule 6 में क्या आता है provision? Let's go back to the fine print. Rule 6 में disclosures. The notice of the meeting shall be accompanied by the copy of the scheme of compromise and the disclosures mentioned in रूल 6. सो फैंटास्टिक, आपको यहाँ पे रूल 6 को फिर पूरी तरह से जो वहां पर डिस्क्लोजर्स रहेंगे वो आपको जाना होगा. अदरवाइज इफ यू आस्क, सो यहाँ पर क्या क्या प्रोविजंस हो जाएंगे आपके, यू विल मेंशन दैट कि यहाँ पर कौन कौन, मतलब जो भी आपका एसेट्स वगैरह है, यू आर गोइंग टू मेंशन ऑल दैट हियर. पार्टीज जो यहाँ पर रहेंगे in the scheme of compromise and arrangement, right? You're going to mention that. After that, इसमें आपका वैल्यूएशन रिपोर्ट जाएगा. जो भी आपका यहाँ पर वैल्यूएशन रिपोर्ट रहता है, you're going to mention that. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So this way you'll get this answer. Now moving ahead, we have another question. Okay, what are the various stages involved in the under merger of a company under the Companies Act 2013? Again, this is a 3-mark question. क्या आंसर आएगा? What are the different stages? What are the different stages? सबसे पहले आप क्या करते हो? आप देखो, ये जो हमने चार्ट बनाया था, remember not this, section 230, what we had discussed here. You all remember? First of all, the scheme needs to be prepared. It can be, so the first thing is this only. You need to prepare the draft. It can be prepared by the company member creditor. Then the application needs to be filed to NCLT, correct? Along with the documents, affidavit, copy of the scheme. Then you will have the first hearing where NCLT will direct the class meeting of the members. After that, notice to the members, creditors, regulatory authorities, newspaper advertisement, right? After that, the meeting is going to happen, whether it is going to be approved by majority number and 3/4 in value. After that, the report of the result of the meeting will be submitted to the NCLT. Then petition confirming the compromise or arrangement will be made by the company or by the liquidator. After that, NCLT is going to fix the hearing, and in that hearing, NCLT is going to either sanction the scheme, or it is going to reject the scheme. So ये आपका पूरा प्रोविजन हो जाएगा. Yes, you can write first pass the board resolution. So both the companies, transferor and the transferee company, they need to pass the board resolution in their listed respective company. And if the scheme involves a listed company, then again you need to go through the SEBI regulations as well. अब बताइए, does this make sense? पूरा process?
Yes,
Does
sir.
this make sense? Yes. So this is how we have completed all the past exam questions, right? Yes.
There was another question, 2A1. I think that is also related to merger.
2A1, dissenting shareholders. Okay, this is for the banking company.
Okay, sir, fine.
So banking company will not do it here, right? So we have covered again the in and out. From my end, one thing is pending, that I have to share the list of case laws, that I'll again share it with you all, right? So should we keep a lecture tomorrow? I mean, second half we can keep a lecture. Considering that I am not going to take any webinar or something tomorrow. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll just inform you all. Okay, I'll just inform you all. Right. So as of now, just prepare, because I wanted to keep a lecture tomorrow so that we can pack up section 235, 236 and 238. So this way the merger part gets over completed tomorrow. And tomorrow itself we can do the past exam questions for these particular, because not many questions they have asked that has been asked from this. So let me just figure it out. We'll have our lecture tomorrow or day after tomorrow, 7 to 9. We are anyway going to meet, right? So that's it from my end for this lecture. Take care. Bye bye.